Hi, my name is Lyn Wright, and I am from Council, Idaho, and I have a story that's very special to me that I'd like to share today.
For some context first, we met Lyn about a year ago, and the way we met is the craziest thing. She was doing speaking engagements in Australia, and prior to that she bought Fountain View's music DVDs, and saw Laura and decided to look up Laura and bought one of her CDs right before she left. So when she went overseas, and she played Laura's music between each meeting that she was doing, and the people there wanted that music. They loved it so much they just wanted to get their hands on it, and they were asking her just to copy it and to give it away to everybody. But she had this crazy idea that she would make the copies, but only if she was able to sell them to the people. And she sold tons of CDs. And when she came back to the US, she reached out to us and was like, "We have a check for you. How can I get it to you? Can we meet?" and stuff. And we had no idea about this. We didn't plan it. We didn't talk to her before. It was just a random email. And when we met, she gave us a check, and that check helped fund the In the Garden CD when we bought it. When we had to physically buy it, that pushed us over there to buy that CD. And since we met under those crazy circumstances, we have just become great friends. So we invited them up here to the house, and she was telling stories and gave a church sermon up in her hometown here. And I was like, we have to do a story on YouTube. I want to share it with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Sorry I talked so much. Enjoy.
This story begins in the early 1990s when Countdown Ministries were doing what they called Mission World. And they were taking inspirational books to other countries and sharing them, giving them away. Well, this one particular story that I want to tell you about today is one in Russia. My sister, she was invited to go on this mission trip, and she, along with about 60 people, I believe it was, and so they had cases and cases of books and Bibles to give away to all those precious people over there, because Russia just opened the doors to foreign people could come in, and it was closed for at least 70 years. Well, all the missionaries arrived over there in Russia, and their first stop was in Moscow. And as they were handing out books in Moscow, the first 2 days went great. And about the third day, it started raining lightly. And so they just prayed, say, "Lord, do you want us to hand out books here? We can't really do this in the rain because the books would get wet." So they prayed that the rain would stop, but it didn't. So the leaders got together and they says, "We need to pray about this." So they prayed again the next morning, and the rain did not stop. So they thought, well, maybe the Lord wants us to take these books and Bibles and go to another town here in Russia. So that's what they did. They loaded up the buses and they went to another town, and they gave out books. And then the group decided that Russia is huge. And if they were going to cover Russia in a couple of weeks, they were going to have to split. Each group going different directions. So there was 3 big Greyhound bus-type buses, and the people, each group got on each one of these buses, and they went in different directions. And my sister was on one that went to the southeast. And as they would travel, they didn't have maps to know exactly where they were to go. So the KGB, with their big trucks hauling all these cases of books and Bibles, led the way, because they're the only ones that knew the roads and where they led to. So the bus driver and one of the truck driver, the KGB man, every day would get up, and before they started handing out the books, they would count how many cases they had left to do. So the further south they went, and they gave away all these books and Bibles along the way, and they were getting pretty low on the books, the cases. So one morning when the 2 men got up in the back of the truck to do their count of the books and cases that they had left, they had to stop. They said, "Wow, we got to count again. Something is wrong here." So they recounted, and it wasn't wrong because they both got the same number, but they says, "The cases have multiplied. We have way more books than we ever had. Cases of books and cases of Bibles. We got to go to work." And they thought they were at the end of the road. They still had more work to do. So about this time, they arrived, they really felt impressed to cross the border over into Belarus, which is also called White Russia. It's just a little country there. And so the day this big bus full of Americans rolled into Belarus, and everybody was just over-thrilled, just so excited about seeing this big Greyhound bus with all these Americans on it, because just the day before they opened their doors for foreigners to come in. And these American missionaries were the first foreigners that they had seen in 70 years. So when what they would do on each of the corners of the street corners, they would set up the missionaries with their cases of books and Bibles. And they didn't put the Bibles out yet. They'd had to bring them out towards the end of the day because that's what the people really wanted, and they didn't have that many cases of of Bibles. So they opened up these, the box of books, and I believe it was Finding Peace Within, possibly The Great Controversy, and others, and I'm not sure all the titles because that was a long time ago. But my sister, the whole group was told, be careful of who you allow to help you. In fact, it'd be best not to allow anybody to help you hand out these books, because we don't know if someone will come and just grab a handful of the books and try to sell them to people, or possibly even destroy them. We don't know what their mindset is right yet. So she was trying to do all this work, and she says the more she was handing out books, the people were just, all she could see was hands reaching towards her for a book. And she says it was incredible. And she was handing books as fast as she could, and she says a case would disappear in 1 minute. And so the people started crowding in on her even more and more, and she finally just stood up and she backed up and she says, Lord, I can't do this. I need help. I can't do this. And she says about that time, 3 tall Russian men in uniform walked up and didn't say a word to her. They just reached down into the box of books and they just laid them across their arm, and they started walking among all this mass of people. And they stood head and shoulders above everyone else, and they were selectively handing these books to certain people. She watched this for a while, and she thought, well, how interesting. But I was told not to let anybody help me, and I don't know how much that really matters, but she was very relieved to have someone help her. So about that time, she says all 3 of these men had their backs to her as they walked through the crowd handing out these books. And in her mind, she says, they could be angels helping me. So she said, in her mind, she didn't say anything out loud. She says, if you're an angel, turn around and smile at me. And the man that she was looking at, she says, and he was a little ways away, he turned right around and made eye contact with her, past all those people, and just gave her the biggest smile. And then he turned back around and kept busy handing out these books. And her heart about stopped. This is incredible. 3 angels came to help me. And the cases of books finally were all gone. And she was just thrilled. I mean, you just don't know how happy she was when she came home and was telling us all these fantastic stories, but that one was incredible. And then her roommate, this other lady, she told her story that was happening at the same time. She was on another street corner, and a young Russian man was there, and he just visited with her, and he was telling her he was waiting for the Bibles, for her to open the case of Bible, because he wanted a Bible. He had heard about these Bibles. He wanted a Bible. So he just stayed there and visited with her all day. She says he was the nicest guy, and they had a good conversation, and she was kind of telling him all about the mission work that they were doing, and she told him which hotel that they were staying at. And so finally that evening, getting close to closing time, when they were going to stop, they were told that's when they was going to bring out the cases of Bibles. And when they did open up these case of Bibles, that they were to just back off and let the people come and take them, because they would be pretty much mobbed if they didn't. And so that's what she did. She opened up this case, several cases of the Bible, and kind of set them out, and then she backed off. And they says, well, come get in the car quick. You know, we need to get moving. So, but just before she got in the car, she handed this Bible to this young man that had waited all day for this Bible. He was so thrilled about it. And so she jumped in the car and they drove off. Well, as they were driving off, she turned around to look to see how he was doing. And she saw this little old Russian lady looking up at this young man that had this Bible, pleading for his Bible because she didn't get one. The Bibles were all gone, and tears were running out of her eyes, and she was just pleading, oh, can I have this Bible? And he was looking down at her, clinging to this Bible. He didn't want to give this up, but how could he refuse that little old lady that didn't have any opportunity to get a Bible? So she, while looking through the back window of the car, saw him hand that little lady the Bible that he had. And now it was her turn to cry. She says, I wept all the way to the motel, just tears running down my eyes because he didn't get his Bible that he waited all day for. So when they got to the motel, she walks into the lobby and started looking around, and lo and behold, if she didn't see that young man that she had handed the Bible to, he had beat them to this motel because she had told him which one that they were at. And as soon as she walked in, he says, do you have another Bible you can give me? And she says, yes, I do. So they both got their Bible, and it's incredible how the Lord works, how his word will go to those who desire it. And it was just an incredible story, what took place at that time. And that was one of my favorite stories. I enjoy telling it.